And with that, we are back. It's me, Robert Phoenix, and I am doing the Astro Weather today. It is the 28th of February, and we're in a little bit of a different part of the universe today. Yes, I know we're in the green screen, non-green screen part of the universe, but physically, I mean, it's in a different part of the universe. So getting up and doing the Astro Weather is definitely a labor of love and a commitment to the craft, as they say. So I hope everybody's doing well and that your day is off to a positive start. And if it's not, well, there's always an opportunity to tack and change course. We are in the season of Pisces, so we'll be using a lot of nautical terms in terms of metaphors. Because especially today, with the star of the day, and I actually have two stars of the day. We'll carve out a little extra time. I'll spend more time on one than the other, but today, really, with the star of the day, personifies the dualistic nature of Pisces, and I think a very visceral manner. Let's just go there, a visceral manner. So I hope everybody's doing really well, and that you're healthy, and that your faith and your attitude is positive, even if it is a bit dark. That's always a really interesting alchemy, to maintain your positivity in the darkness, and to even channel irony and wit at times as a way to lift the veil on the darkness. I think it's one of the most difficult exercises that we as humans can have, and it's one that I dip into often. So I'll have more stories on my show today at 9:11 a.m. about what's going on and why I'm in a different physical part of the universe. Some of you may know, but I'll get into more of that on my show with some of the relevant cultural touch points as well. All right, let's get into the Astro Weather. Where I am, it happens to be wet, and that is so appropriate for the Pisces season. And so if you're experiencing wet, Pisces is upon us. And hey, you gotta flow with it, right? So let's check out the planets. Oh, here we go. Mercury coming into a tight conjunction with Saturn. Whoa, look at that. 3-degree orb. Your words take form. What you say today, tomorrow, all the way up through Friday, what you say has a lasting impact. Remember that. It has a lasting impact. And today's a good day to communicate. Say what you mean what you say. That's the old mantra, right? We have a Mars-Moon conjunction in Gemini. So there's a lot of instinctual, fast, electrical energy in the air. And so when we have this Mercury-Saturn conjunction, which is clear, thought out, disciplined, structured, ordered thinking, coming in and trining the quicksilvery conjunction of Moon-Mars, boy, you could cover some ground today. So decisions you make today are really important decisions. And I don't see any cognitive dissonance. I don't see any tension. Once you know what your mind is, and you've made up your mind, put it in motion. Today's that day, right? Moon-Mars conjunction in Gemini. When it comes to you making choices, standing on your own principles as well, because principles are important when you're dealing with Saturn here. All that's fine, right? All that is fine. All that is copacetic. Now, when we drop down a little bit and we get into the Moon-Neptune square and Mars squaring Neptune, that's a different beast. It's a different animal. When we're up here today, when we're up here, actually through Friday, right? Your world works. It works. Saturn defines everything. Saturn brings limitations. When you get outside the lines, when you color outside the lines, And look, one of the things that sets us apart as humans is our ability to channel emotion. That's different than being emotional. Because there is also a temptation to go full on emotional today with Mars squaring Neptune. And remember that Mars square is going to come into more and more focus here over the next few days. Well, actually, next couple of weeks. But that Mars-Neptune square is very intense. And I think you're going to see a lot of people create a bit of a backlash to what's been going on over the last 3 years when it comes to the carjack, if you know what I mean, right? I think that's a part of it. That's part of it. And we saw a little bit of that with Woody Harrelson on Saturday Night Live when he decided to kind of go postal on Saturday Night Live about the whole thing. We're starting to see some of this now come out in the wash. You get Scott Adams and Dilbert, basically taking a match and lighting his career and legacy on fire. So there's and by the way, I'm sure that was actually thought out on his part. And you can see this Mars Moon conjunction, Scott Adams being a Gemini, right? This energy can take you in a couple different directions. And by the way, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. That's the other part. You could have an emotional reaction or an over emotional reaction, and then you can get right up in the noggin up here and be very clear, and then make agreements, speak your truth, forge some kind of partnership. Generally speaking, if it's in Aquarius, at this degree, we're dealing with third decan, so partnerships are going to be part of the discussion, and it happens quickly. So the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can work through the emotional morass, and this is the emotional morass right here, right there. If you could do that, and even with the sun, and we have the sun square with Mars, which is again, pretty hot, right? And the sun is going to be moving more into square with Mars over the course of the next week, right? So we got 7 days, actually 15, 16, 17 days, Sun Mars square. So the energies and that's mutable energy too. So you're like throwing kerosene on the fire. A lot of volatility. And the thing with Pisces is that it can be so subjective, and people can take things so personally with Pisces. Keep that in mind. But today, and over the course of the next 4 to 5 days, with that Mercury-Saturn conjunction, actually just the Mercury-Saturn conjunction, there's more clarity, there's more objectivity. So you can round up the subjective, personal, emotional world to get to a clearer, distilled, more, that's what I'm looking for, focused version of how you want to interact with reality. And it's based on your decree. And your decree is based on the clarity and the understanding and the mastery of what you know. So don't forget that. Now, we're going to have a full moon. Well, it's actually not, the full moon is in a few days. But when the moon goes into Leo, we're going to have the Moon-Saturn opposition. And that's a tricky opposition, Moon-Saturn. I'll talk more about that when we get onto the Leo moon. What else do we have here today? We got the Neptune squares. So today's a day where you can get in your cups, which I think is an appropriate Pisces metaphor, to be in your cups, but then resolve that. Like, don't stay there. And that's the beauty of Pisces. Pisces being a dualistic sign. You don't want to stay there. You can move. It's mutable. It's fluid. It's like Jacob's ladder, right? From the root to the fruit. So know that whatever kind of emotional state that you're involved with today, you have options. And you can stay there if you want. You can process your emotions, but at a certain point, you're going to miss out on the clarity. So in a perfect world, you process the emotion, you let the emotion go through you, and then you have a crystal clear vision and version of your path. It's that simple, right? As humans, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to process our emotions. If we get too into our emotions, it gets very sloppy, very, very sloppy. If we go too far into our head, we get cold and we get robotic. And today's one of those days where you can theoretically experience both and resolve both. Or You don't have to go into the emotional state. It could be a test. For some people, they just have to go there. They said, I can't, some people are very emotional people. That's just the way it is. It's just how they're wired. Tell an emotional person not to be emotional, and it's like you're speaking in Alpha Centaurian. They don't understand it, right? And just like you would tell a mental person to not be so mental, they wouldn't understand it. That's just how they're wired. And I think if you know yourself, you know where you are on the spectrum. And some people are pretty balanced. You can see it in a chart. They can be emotional, they can be mental, they can be active and will directed, and other people can't. It's not a crime. It's not the crime of the century, right? So you don't necessarily have to go into the depths of the emotion. But if it's there and you do, just remember, you don't have to drown, right? This is the day where next couple of days, you don't have to drown. You really don't have to drown. The Mercury-Saturn conjunction is literally and figuratively a lifesaver. The sun moving into sextile with Uranus, that means that creative solutions abound. Always look for the creative solution. And the sun is going to come into a tighter sextile with Uranus over the next week, which I think is quite good. We still have our lovely array of planets in Aries, Venus and Jupiter conjunction. And I think that's, good spirit, good cheer, goodwill, with the right person and the right participation and the right cooperation. You conquer anything with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, and even facing with Chiron and Aries, some very vulnerable pieces in your life with the right support. This is a really good time to overcome and surmount a lot of obstacles. And it's challenging because a lot of people don't have that support, but it's there, right? It's there. It's always there. And sometimes it's our inability to access it. Sometimes we don't even see it. Right? Sometimes we don't even see the support. Sometimes we can be so immersed in the Piscean world where we're not aware of the fact that there are other people and other life forms. And it can be really simple. But if you have a cat, I know this sounds kind of lame, or maybe lame, but even if you have a cat, like a cat can be very supportive if it's the right cat. Sometimes cats are a little tricky, but sometimes we overlook things. We just miss certain clues and cues in our environment. So with Aries, though, it should be immediate. Should know, right? It should know. That's the nature of Aries. Overall, I think this is a really interesting and good day. Especially if you're looking for clarity. If you're looking to move through your emotions quickly, like a squall, get the clarity, that's there. Or you can make a choice and say, I don't need to go there. I don't need to drop down into this square and indulge in the duality. Because when you get into Gemini and Pisces, boy, you really have a dualistic cocktail. So the offer here, once again, is clarity. Clarity and vision. And I'm a big clarity and vision guy. Okay, let's talk about the start of the day. So today is an interesting day. Now, I had one person that I picked out last night, and then having a very Piscean moment at the last minute, I changed my mind. I'm like, I found a better person. I found a better star of the day. Now, that said, I'm going to set it up by showing you the original star of the day, because I think it's an interesting demonstration of Pisces. But not the most inspiring dude. But I guess that's how Pisces works. So today's star of the day is none other than, well, he was, but he got ousted. He got bumped out. Richard Ramirez. Today is the day of creepy people. There are 3 people on today's menu that are creeps. He's one of them. The lobbyist, gangster lobbyist, Jack Abramoff, his birthday is today. And Bugsy Siegel, who's one of the great criminal minds of the 20th century, it's his birthday today as well. So today is the day of 3 creeps. No, but there's actually some redeeming people, and one of them we'll talk about here in a second. But Ramirez, very interesting character. And you can see some of the death-oriented stuff, right? With Chiron opposing Pluto, Sun opposing Pluto. He's got this big T-square. He's got also has the Venus-Mars conjunction in Aquarius. Anytime you see that Venus-Mars conjunction, it's a trippy conjunction that people can be very unisexual. Sometimes they appear very feminine. Sometimes they appear very masculine. When Ramirez was a kid, he was sexually abused. He had a terrible upbringing. Wound up essentially getting involved in Satanism in El Paso, which is where he grew up, and eventually matriculates to California. And he's got that Mars, Venus square with Neptune, and he has no impulse control. Opposition Uranus, no impulse control. He's got a Jupiter-Pluto trine going on there. He's got Jupiter in Sagittarius, Sag rising. Jupiter-Pluto trines are kind of interesting. I think he probably did okay in prison. He's got his part of fortune in the 12th house. So I'm assuming his life in prison was probably in a lot of ways better than his life outside the prison. And then he has that weird moon at 29 Pisces, squaring Jupiter. And that moon is just right on the final degree of the zodiac. And there's no energy left in the Pisces moon. This is a very strange dude. Obviously, look at him. He's a very strange guy. But I think he got married twice. Believe it or not, he got married twice in prison. He had all these women that were. He's kind of like the first rock star serial killer. He's got that rock star vibe. I bet Charles Manson might have been pissed at him. He kind of like took him out of the rock and roll serial murderer Hall of Fame. Although some people don't think that Manson was even involved in any of that, but that's a different story. Anyway, that's enough about Richard Ramirez. He's not very inspiring. But you can see the Sun-Pluto opposition. You can see the impulse control and the strange conjunction of Venus and Mars in Aquarius, and then squaring Neptune. It's a confused motherfucker. And pretty shitty background. And he's gone. Literally and figuratively. So that's the low end of Pisces. Now I'm going to take you into the higher end of Pisces. I love this one. This was my 11th hour start of the day. So you get a two for today. And today's second star of the day is Captain Steubing. That's right, Gavin McLeod. And I thought to myself, how appropriate is that? The captain of the Love Boat is a Pisces. Not only was he a Pisces, but not only was he a captain of the Love Boat, but he was an ensign, I believe, or whatever his rank was, on McHale's Navy. So he had two shows that were nautically based and had nautical themes. They were really the bookends of his TV career. And a lot of other people know him as being Mary Tyler Moore's sidekick on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, where he played Murray, the news desk editor. And he always had his sweaters. He was known for his sweaters. And there he is, right? Sag rising. Now, he also has Neptune at the highest part of his chart. So what do I talk about with Neptune up here in this position? People that have Neptune up here are guided by faith and art. That is the prevailing winds in their chart, but he's guided by spirit with Neptune up here. And what's interesting about Neptune is just how little it's doing. He's got the opposition with Venus, and that's about it. When we go down here, what is a square with Uranus? Is that right? Let me just check that out. Hold on. Yeah, where's Uranus in his chart? It's not a square. I don't see it as a square. That's weird. Anyway, but what's also interesting is he has, just like Richard Ramirez, he has the sun in the fourth house. Well, it's not really quite in the fourth, but it's ingressing. And then he has the true node and Uranus and Mercury all in the fourth house. And here in Aries, right, what do we have? We have a depiction of the military. And, He's a captain, right? He's a captain. Captain is a military rank. And of course, he makes his mark with McHale's Navy, which is military. So he floats around in a boat. Actually, it's a movie studio, a TV studio, but nonetheless, you get the idea, right? Sun conjunct the fourth house, and then Neptune, of course, the ruler of Pisces, being the guiding principle, sort of the guiding spirit of the chart. And then he has all this Cancer. He's got Mars in Cancer, Moon in Cancer, Pluto in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, all eighth house, again, aquatic. And then when we look at Cancer, what do we see? We see the home, right? The home. And what is the love boat? It's the home. It's the home aboard. It's the home at sea. And by the way, his last name is not McLeod, that he took that on. His last name is actually See. S-E-E, See. And he spends most of his time in shows that are what? At sea. Now, the other interesting thing about Gavin McCleod, and I didn't know this about him, but I had to do a little brush up. I knew some of the other stuff. But for 17 years, Gavin McCleod and his wife co-hosted programming on the Trinity Broadcast Network, which is a Christian network. Trinity Broadcast Network. So Gavin McCleod had another part of his life that was very Christian oriented, which is very Piscean. And I also did not know that he and Terry Cole Whitaker, who was one of these new thought evangelists. I remember her back in the day, watching her back in the 90s, and she would have a show on Sunday mornings. She's a pretty inspirational person. And Gavin McLeod and Terry Cole Whitaker were partners for a while. So Gavin McLeod had this kind of mystical Christian side to him. And then eventually he, navigates his boat, his vessel of faith into more mainstream Christian waters. And he died at the age of, I think, 90 something. And this guy lived a good life. Okay. He dealt with some very Piscean issues with alcoholism. And you can kind of see some of this over here, with Moon and Pluto and Mars, all bundled up in Cancer and coming down and squaring, his Aries planet. So, yeah, I don't know a lot about his early life, but I would assume that it wasn't all, peaches and cream. This guy had to go through some things. And I know he had a battle with the bottle, and he came through that. Very interesting character. And, more of an up note, more of an updraft with the star of the day. How much more Pisces does it get than Captain Steubing? All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. This is Robert Phoenix. I'll be over at 15 Minutes of Flame at 9:15 Central Standard Time. Let me give you the visual. It's right there. There's the old visual. 15 Minutes of Flame. Boom, come join us. We'll be talking about some interesting people. Scott Adams, Woody Harrelson. We'll talk about the WHO and how Biden is looking like he's going to sign an international treaty with the WHO, giving them power to mandate our health choices here in this country under times of, this is how they rope you into the New World Order, by the way. It's not through force of arms, but force of medical decree for the greater good. So please join us. We'll talk about some of these things, get a few of these topics off our chest. And of course, if you want some really good CBD product, let me tell you, the gummies have been really helpful for me here where I am in a different physical part of the universe, and really helped me get to sleep. I've boosted my gummy consumption just a little bit at night because I'm sleeping not sleeping in my own bed, so sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge, right? So just boosted my gummy just a little bit, and it's working out great, absolutely great. So if you want to get some of the best CBD products on the internet and off the internet as well, because Chris has an actual physical store, go to truehempscience.com. That's truehempscience.com. And if you order $100 of product or more, just type in 15MINS. It's 15MINS, and you'll get free product. So you get to try new things. And they come along and say, ooh, and every time you do an order, you'll get something probably new. Or you may get a bit of a repeat and say, oh, I remember this. I really like this. Right. So that's really one of the bonuses. You type in 15MINS when you check out, you get free product. And then you spend $150 or more, and you will get free shipping on top of it. So triumphscience.com, that is your source for some of the best CBD you can get your hands on. All right. Join me, 15 minutes of flame. In the meantime, use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart as simple as possible. I'm wishing everybody a blessed day, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye for now.